And I told him, I was very, very clear with Snoopy. You know, I even like took it. I'm too chicken to actually put my fingers on it, let it shock me, but I put like the little safety guard thing on it, walked toward it, and like even mimicked the Snoopy. Bah! You know, like I was getting shocked, hoping that he would get it. Okay? But Snoopy, sure enough, I put the collar on him. Now, Snoopy, do you understand? You know, and he's nodding or whatever in his Snoopy little way. And you know what he did? First thing he did, took off right for the fence. And when he got to the flag, he literally went, and he hears the beeping, and he's going, "What's that?" And he goes, "Ah!" It took twice. It took that happening twice for Snoopy to go, "I'm not going near the white flags ever again." Okay? And I explained it to him, but guess what? Snoopy just didn't get it. I heard a story recently about some friends of mine that had a redneck buddy over, and a bunch of them were drinking beer. Okay? Imagine that. Redneck buddies drinking beer. And they were over at his house, this friend of mine's house, and they were drinking beer, and this guy has like a Doberman Pinscher, huge dog. And so his electric fence is like on the highest setting, 10 feet away from the line, the highest electrical setting you can get on this thing. And his buddy, they were talking about the electric fence that he had. Because even that Doberman is big and burly, and it likes to run. It will cross that fence, and he has trouble keeping it in. And the guy was telling him, his drunk redneck buddy was telling him, "Oh, it's just because you don't have it high enough." And I was like, no, you don't understand. It's on the highest state. He said, "Give me that thing." And he took the collar, and he put it on himself. Put it on himself. And the guy tried to tell him, "Man, you don't understand. It's going to shock you, and it's going to hurt." He said, "I can do this." He said, "I'll show you." He said, "You don't have it wide enough, and you don't have it on a high enough setting." He said, "I'm going to run right through that thing." And he put it on, and this guy, he said, this big redneck drunk guy was running at a full-out sprint and going to jump across where that line was, And he said he took off, and he jumped, and literally in midair went, "No!" And the guy didn't, this is what was crazy, the guy didn't have enough sense. Like when he fell on the ground, if you fall on the ground and you're getting shocked, what will you do? You get up and you go back to where it's safe. Well, this guy didn't have the wherewithal in his brain to go, "Oh, duh, stand up, walk that way." So he was laying on his side, running around the place. His buddies, after they just were dying laughing, were looking over there, and they finally went over after laughing at him and dragged him back over. And, there's an element, just like there's an element of getting the magic item, there's an element for Snoopy and the stupid redneck guy getting what a dog shock collar is. Okay? What that dog shock collar can do. Alright? So keep those two things in the back of your mind. I grew up in church. My mom always took me to church. I knew the gospel, made some religious thing happen in my life when I was 8 that I didn't really understand. When I was 14, I came to a knowledge of who Jesus was and me not having Him in my life. I wrestled with that until I was 19. And finally, at 19 years old, Jesus got me. Okay? I gave myself to Jesus, and He got me. I remember, though, thinking in the back of my mind, okay, now that Jesus got me, now that I'm, saved, now that I'm a believer in Jesus, I didn't have no idea what that really meant. I can do pretty much whatever I want to do. And I did. I was probably worse morally after my initial conversion to Jesus than I was before my conversion to Jesus. I was probably worse morally active. Went to parties I wasn't supposed to go to, hung out with people I wasn't supposed to hang out with, drank things and did things that I wasn't supposed to drink or do. And it was just, I was not in a healthy place spiritually. And I remember walking on college through campus and identifying people that said they were believers that looked way different than I did. They looked way different than I did. I said a minute ago, the way I phrased it, and I did that intentionally, that Jesus, when I was 19, got me. Okay? But it wasn't until I was probably 22, 23 years old that I really got Jesus. It's not that I was not a believer and not going to spend eternity with Christ. It's not that Jesus didn't have me and hold on to me and have me securely in His grasp and have that relationship with me. But it's that I didn't get that relationship. I didn't get it. In a lot of ways, like I didn't get a magic eye picture. Or in a lot of ways, like the dog, Snoopy, and the redneck guy didn't get the experience of being shocked by that collar. There's an element to getting Jesus. And let me put it this way. Like, I can talk to you about Jesus, and you can talk to me about Jesus with some knowledge and kind of speak through the Christian speak. And you can say things like, yeah, I'm saved, or yeah, I'm a believer. But when I start talking about getting Jesus, there's some of you guys in this room that go, oh, yeah, I know what you mean when you say, I get Jesus. But then there's others of you in here that go, okay, I'm a Christian, but what do you mean, get Jesus? I don't get it. Let me put it another way. Magic eye, shock collar, like a joke, okay? Like when I was in middle school, y'all have had this experience before, where you're sitting around with your friends, and one of your buddies tells a joke, okay? And it comes to the end of the joke, he says the punchline, and what does everybody in the circle start doing? They start laughing their heads off. I'm like, it's the funniest thing they ever heard. Like, there was this joke that my friends, a bunch of them told me and said, okay, this penguin walks into Home Depot. And he's telling this joke about a penguin going into Home Depot and shopping for bathtubs. And the penguin's walking around, bathtub, And so the sales assistant's showing him all these bathtubs, And he says, okay, penguin dude, we got the best bathtub, all right, that I want to show you. It's got all the bells and whistles. Like, it's got the little thing for the radio in it. Come with me, I'll show you the bathtub. They get to that bathtub. My friends are telling me this joke. My friend's telling me this joke. He says, we get to that bathtub, and the penguin looks